What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Watch It in Action. I'm BouseFeenux, and today we're going to be taking a look at Mirage. Mirage is essentially the trickster Warframe, and she's got some really cool abilities. I have two different builds for this Warframe, and we're going to take a look at those at different points in the video. So the first one we're going to look at here is the build that I have that's based on Hall of Mirrors, and that's going to be using the Hall of Malevolence augment, as well as the Total Eclipse augment. So we're going to be using both of these skills, and we're going to talk about what those do here in a second. But essentially what Hall of Malevolence does is it increases the damage of your doppelgangers created by Hall of Mirrors by 5% every time you kill an enemy, and that goes up to 50%. So they'll be doing 50% more damage. Total Eclipse basically allows you to bestow upon your allies that are standing near you your Eclipse ability, is essentially how that works. The only thing with the Total Eclipse augment is it's a very short range, and especially with this build, it's actually kind of short, but it's still kind of nice if somebody's standing directly next to you. So let's take a look at the abilities here real quick. We have Hall of Mirrors, which is going to be our main ability that we're going to be using a lot, and this is going to make pretty much any weapon in Warframe extremely impressive. I think for this, the purposes of this video, we're going to be using the Cyanoid Similar, and I'm going to show you just how devastating that weapon can be with Mirage's Hall of Mirrors. So basically how this works is she creates 4 different clones that spread out around her, and they're like little holograms, and the cool thing is they also draw enemy fire too, which helps keep Mirage alive because she is very low on the survivability scale, doesn't have much that keeps her alive. So those clones really help in drawing aggro and keeping you from dying. Sleight of Hand isn't really an ability I use very much. I don't really think many people do. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially what this does is it casts in a radius a little like, it basically booby traps any items. So like alarm panels, anything like that. If an enemy tries to use it, it'll explode on them and do some damage. I don't really use this ability that much. It can be kind of fun, but it's not really one that's on my list of used abilities. Eclipse here is really useful, and essentially what this does is while we're standing in a brightly lit area, it's going to increase our damage by 4.18 times. I think it goes up to 5 times, but when you're standing in light, you're going to get a damage multiplier, and when you're standing in darkness, like a darkly lit area, you're going to get a damage reduction buff, so any incoming damage is going to be reduced. Prism is what our second build is going to be based on here, and this is a pretty slow ability, so you're going to need natural talent for this one, and that's pretty much the next build I'm going to show you. But essentially what this does is it shoots out a laser orb. It looks kind of like a disco ball. That's why like the second build is called the disco ball build. But essentially what this does is it shoots out a giant disco ball, and when you toggle the ability again, when you press 4 a second time, it'll explode and blind anything that's caught in its radius. As you can see right now, we don't have range on this build, so the ability radius is pretty low. You can use this ability to get out of a tight spot, but it's not going to be super helpful. So that being said, let's go ahead and check out the first build here, the Hall of Mirrors build, the Clones build is essentially what some people call it. So our abilities here we're going to be using are 1 and 3, so we're going to make sure that Hall of Mirrors comes up, and then we want Eclipse on for that 4 times damage. And then I'm just going to spawn the toughest enemy I think I can find. We're going to use some Corrupted Heavy Gunners for this, and I'm going to show you how ridiculous weapons can be with Mirage. So those 80,000 crits are just slamming those guys. I mean, these are Corrupted Heavy Gunners at level 90. I mean, they're pretty tough, and the Cyanoid Similar is an impressive weapon already, but if you combine that with Mirage, it's just going to be devastating. You can destroy squads of enemies, no problem, especially with that damage multiplier. That's going to help out a ton. I mean, you can just see how much health these guys have. Those crits are just amazing. So yeah, after we kill all these guys, I mean, she's just ridiculous. Any weapon will basically perform like this. The Amprex is one that people like a lot. Cyanoid Similar is amazing because the Syndicate proc actually restores your energy and increases your max energy pool, which is really nice. But you can use pretty much any weapon on Mirage, and it's extremely impressive. But moving on to the next build here, this is going to be based around that Prism ability that we were checking out a second ago. And we're going to be using a lot of range and efficiency on this build. No power strength, because this is basically the build that I use for the Law of Retribution raid. And if you're looking for a Mirage build for that, this is kind of the one that a lot of people use, or some variation of it. And you'll see here that we have Natural Talent, which improves our casting speed. And if you remember the description earlier, Prism is basically just a huge ball of energy that, when detonated, it'll blind everybody in the area. It does a little bit of damage, but the damage isn't what we're concerned about here. It's more the blind ability. So we're just going to spawn some generic dudes. The first ones I click on, we're just going to do Corrupted Butchers, because it doesn't really matter what we choose here. They're going to be blinded anyway. Now you're going to see this skill here has incredible range. So you'll see them taking damage out there. And then we press 4 again, and they're all going to be blinded. They're just blind. They can't see us. They can still hear us, so they'll attack if they hear us, but they can't see us at all. They're just going to walk around in a daze like that. And you can recast that ability again. And even with Natural Talent, this ability is still kind of slow. But really, I mean, this is going to be the chief ability of this build. You can use your Eclipse build if you want to throw down some extra damage on enemies. And this is basically just the Cyanoid Simulator without, you know, those clones. You can use your clones as well. They're just not going to be as damaging. They're not going to last as long. But yeah, I mean, basically you can use any of her abilities with both of these builds. It's just depending on the build you're using, one of them is going to suffer. So, well, that's pretty much it. I mean, for the clones build, make sure you have your clones up all the time. Make sure you have Eclipse up constantly. For the Prism build, you can have your clones and Eclipse up and spam that Prism quite often, and that's going to work out really well for you. But this is pretty much Mirage, guys. There's not a whole lot to her. She's pretty simple frame to play, a lot of fun, makes just about any weapon in Warframe amazing. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you got a lot out of it, and I will see you at the next one. Thank you so much.